I just.
Hey. Well, morning, Clutha. Very nice to see you all. I am not Simon Telford, the benefit of anyone. I'm Anthony here today in Simon's absence. He has a leave of absence, and that's really helping for all of us. So good role model, Simon. I will open our meeting with conflict. Tutawa mai luna, tutawa mai raro, tutawa mai waho, tutawa mai roto. Kiento I te mori tu, te mori ora ki te katoa. Huye. Reminder that a karakia is a great way to ground ourselves and to set aside the space and the time today for the purpose of our meeting. So thanks to colleagues, elected members, and staff who have being with us from the leadership team. Thank you to the staff for in attendance reporting to us today. And thank you to the members of the public who might be online. And the media, of course. Welcome to Sue. Love to have you. Thanks for making the effort on this dreadful, let's face it, it really is scary out there. It was the slowest trip from Wānaka to Wānaka-Upper I've ever made. I would like to just note the meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing after today. I'll be remembering that. We are on to apologies and absence requests. Are there, as Chris is looking very excited, is there one you'd like to mention?
I actually, for the first time in 20 years, have more than 1 week's holiday coming up from the 3rd of August to the 6th of, 13th of August until the 6th of September.
That one, you already told me mine, even on Senate and the council meeting.
Yes, please.
The 6th of July to the 17th of July. School holidays.
Good, yes, good old school holidays. John.
10th of July to the 18th of July.
Very good. Anyone else? Right. And Simon is an apology today. In addition to being on leave, he is actually an formal apology. So we will note that. Right, we will need to be official about those links. Would anyone like to let us know they're accepted? Thank you, Nikki and John, seconding very much. All those in favor? Excellent. Right, we will just ask, are there any declarations of conflicts of interest in particular for today? And the agenda is none there. Okay, thank you. We have been advised there are no matters lying on the table. So we have noted that. And there have been no public forum registrations for today. So that is that. I was going to say it was great to be in Wānaka here in Lugans, and it is really good to take these meetings around Clutha. Always a great opportunity for those online to note where the meetings are in future so that you can come and make your voice heard. Because it is really useful for us. Okay, we need to confirm today's agenda. I'd like to move that we will confirm it. Thank you, Cody. All those in favor of approving today's agenda, because that's what we're going to do tonight. So, we're opposed. Okie dokie. We are on to our first item on the agenda, which is sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes, because administrative things are my favorite. We are going to refer to minutes of last meeting on the 12th of May. Are there any corrections or questions from the team? Would someone like to move to accept those? Thank you, Cody, for moving and John for seconding. Are we all in favor? Aye.
Just one quick thing, I just thought of my leave of absence, because not speaking here for the 20th of August meeting.
It's okay. I'll write that down.
Thanks.
Okie dokie. Happy to move on. All right. I would like to cordially invite whomever is speaking. I believe that's Hugo and Ben, and anyone else who wants to talk about parking. Is it two of you? Thanks. Here, Ben and Hugo Might be nice if you introduce yourselves and, thank you, for spending the time. Thank you in particular for the report, which had fantastic maps in it. We often comment on the maps and their efficiency or lack thereof, so we really appreciate that being there and being big enough to see, give us some context of where these places are. So over to you to introduce yourselves and craft a particular report. Thank you.
Yeah, good. An engineer and response team.
Sorry, Hugo, you have to pick up with that for us and also for the purposes of recording.
Yeah, fair enough. Hugo, separate engineer, operations team. And then going regarding operations, making contracts. No.
Sorry.
And I
Carry on.
take your reports around and make missions.
Okay. Do you want to highlight for us? Could I just ask you to a little bit of context around how this maybe for my benefit, even as a newbie to the board, how often these come to the board, what stimulates the review for parking restrictions? Is it in response to any some of that's in the report? But I mean, just general, is there anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, typically annually, to report for community board for this time for the TV site, and a lot of these are generated from community requests, issues with enforcement, and then
Okay, right. That's really helpful to know. And also another reason I asked that is good for anyone who's tuning in to know that, because it's responsive, interactive way that you are reviewing those and they're being brought to people's to staff's attention, which is great. I'd like to just pause for a moment and welcome Devin Bear, Smith, who's joined us at the table, not as a community board member, but as a guest of the community at the table. And I'd just like to ask if anyone has any questions before we go to them. Yeah, kick off. Thanks.
Alice and Anne here in court, there's a story behind there where things that bumping it. I was just wondering if you wanted to talk through what you saw and how you're beginning to understand and some of the backstory behind
it was initially to quite extensive verge damage from gas, which isn't permitted under our parking bylaw, and we've put signs up to just reinforce that message to clear people. The initial restriction was no stopping, which stems from the property boundary all the way across to the property boundary. The no parking of the roadway is purely the verge and still allows some street parking. As there's a few spaces in that are still entry.
Try to clarify, the signs are already up, but they're not enforceable at the moment, is that?
I think it's what. Expert actually. Yeah.
I just wondering why if the signs already up, really.
Sorry, I'm Casey. I'm the Cartoon team leader. I'm the Greenwich team, so I manage the party enforcement for the rest of the district. So, whilst there's signs up, we do need to formalise and approve so we can enforce. It's basically to fair for us to do that. Yeah, but if we can continue to row and the route they're approved, so we can go enforce.
That was the character.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Great to see some stuff being done around the hidden building structural drive. In response to the bike trails, that's great. Just obviously you're going to be working with the not community business, residents association. Do you have you had conversations already? Is it obvious where you're going to be putting the kind of the no stopping and if there was any sort of conflict between your views and theirs? How are those people are?
Yeah, so this is I was in there student with the association. Yeah, I think they're concerned of someone else. I was initially doing no parking on the roadway and then the impulse section not permitted. And then Yeah, we're not too sure what the issue's gonna be, so we'll now, so it can be reactive to start the formal process. And yeah, we will work with the sections. How was with the trust?
No, that's fine. I guess we can stay in touch with them as well and make sure that everything's moving fine. Thank you. It's very helpful.
John, and then Quentin.
Yeah, just looking at the Hidden Hills area that you've got no parking off the roadway. If you look at the end of Hidden Hills Drive on the turning circles, I'm just wondering, hanging up there, whether that no parking off the roadway should be extended a wee bit further, because immediately below when you stopped it, you've got a big grass verge, and it just goes up a little bit up Weatherwall Clove. And I can see what happens, that people will not park with verge there, and just park just immediately outside it. So I was wondering whether that area should be extended slightly.
Yeah, that's probably so we
Ah.
but I
That's so by council, that stretch.
Yes, and maybe these more basically to get very clear access to the reserve. And then also some utilities there as well. From
It's on the west side is working about more than the east side.
Yeah. Oh. Might double check your house. If you,
Yeah, I mean, check to.
It's, if you could check out, I don't know. So, yeah.
Thanks, John. Quentin?
Oh, yeah, just regarding that, so just the parking restrictions are there to avoid inappropriate parking, not to avoid parking on the roadway, so that there could be cars parked up on the side of Hidden Hills Drive, as long as it didn't obstruct.
definitely,
Yeah. So it's not intended to sterilise the street parking, it's just intended to protect the turning head and the driveways and the
Correct,
and the verge parking and all that.
Yeah, like here, they'll, so, argue Rich, it's now actually broken up parking stuff right there.
You have to in there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, we wouldn't remove parking on both sides, we only look to pass.
And I haven't caught one. I thought we've done that previously. Is there a reason why that's come back? And will this make it enforceable, because it's been an ongoing problem there? Will they actually get in there and enforce? Well, I suppose not regulatory, but yeah.
Yeah, any new areas or areas that are in here, what we'll do is we'll go through like an education phase through enforcement. So we'll go out and do some targeted education with flyers, and notifying people for non-complying, not the rules where a certain time, and then we'll go in and start issuing tickets. But yeah, there'll definitely be an education phase before we do anything.
Well, I mean, that's going to be quite a tricky spot to manage. Presumably, there's going to be a lot of kickback and a lot of.
Essentially, we're used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely there probably will be some pushback, but I mean, it's approved, there's no restrictions in place, and
Is there any reason why the previous restrictions didn't work or didn't get enacted?
They do work, but it's just like the no stopping versus no parking for road, but legal.
Oh, we did do no verge parking there previously.
Yeah, no stopping, which covers the roadway and the verge, probably down the property boundary. And that removes any on-street parking between those restrictions as well. So changing it to no parking for roadway will allow those few spaces to leave on street.
Thank you.
So on that, I'm just reflecting that, as we've discussed, the Alberta Human Association did specifically ask, is there any way to turn those, what are currently being used as informal parking spots in that one stretch, where you, well, where there is a sign, yes, it's no park, but, and the answer to that is that that's not possible, because there's no parking on a verge anywhere. Is that the official line?
Yeah, can't park.
And then we wanted, and if that was, so the only way around that is to actually change it as designation of that particular patch of church, because that's what it is, it's a patch of church.
You have to formalize it to park the space or construct.
And John, I can see your change chime in there.
Right, so these go back quickly, that section of Hidden Hill, you appear to be part of the reserve. that grassy area.
It is reserved.
It needs to get a good, from the security back, because it's part of the reserve.
It's just back to the Haverford Alice Nav area, which is, is quite messy. Has any consideration been given to what could be done to make that? I mean, it's a growth issue, isn't it? That little business precinct is now something that draws a lot of people. There is a lot of informal parking in places that this whole process is trying to prevent from happening in the future.
Yeah, the town's question, the answer is yes, if it was requested, we could consider it, pursue that, see if it's cost associated with forming and parking. So it would just be, it needs to be established as a potential project, one to, minor improvements program to, campaign. And, yeah, just program.
Okay, but that's really helpful. Thank you. So just to be clear, it would be, in terms of land use, it would be permissible, but it's
That's what I received my understanding, it's a little bit permissible, and it's just something that is, the farming, the agreement that people start taking part. So it's like.
and if it's not that would be going, the request that goes through to minor improvements as part of that.
Minor improvements for the LCD. As part of the LCD.
But, oh, sorry.
No, I'd have to let you go.
I'm the street, camper van. Obviously, a lot of people requested that, I'm assuming. Would they be requesting via like SNAP, Sol? How do you get?
That one, from some history, when that whole development was done, I believe this is just more retrospective, formalizing those restrictions, because they have been in there the whole time. I think it was just potentially not included in the original design. And so now we're just going back just retrospectively that to put those in. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, but we have been infringing for large camper vans there, just been doing it as it inconsiderately parked. So
Yeah.
it is a big issue along there.
Yeah.
So
How much is the infringement now?
it's $100.
Right.
Yeah. And then they anecdotally from the officers, they have said that the enforcement of the rule has seen some really good compliance there. So
Where do they go?
That's like,
on the other
Yeah,
side of the
but-
road, they're allowed to be there.
I mean, it's pretty tough now. I mean, I don't really want them there, but it's like, where else can they park in the rugby club grounds? Yeah.
And that car park with the toilets, with the newest toilets down there, that's specifically for camper vans.
Mm.
That thing attention now.
The purpose of it was because from my history is that it's more for large camper vans backing out.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous to back out and there's quite a lot of sidelines. So that's what the guys targeted.
it's just a geometry problem.
Yeah.
They're just too big.
Yeah.
So it's hard to promote tourism, right?
That's a whole other thing. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Thank you.
That was what I was going to ask as well. The displacement issue, would be the main goal of what we're doing, and it's interesting if we are applying to the government or international mobility funding for things like the Wānaka development budget, and we didn't get it. Well, that's in the toilets they made it, but if we're not welcoming visitors into that area, and a proportion of camper van versus non-camper van, then I just, I wonder, do we need to then look at, displacement? Have we got enough cars elsewhere that are reserved for campers? We have been in Queenstown, it's always an issue. I'm not aware that they need to displace others, but I just feel like we need to make sure we're taking that anyway, because it is something that there's a restriction that is already in place one way or another.
Taking any back.
We're not taking anything.
We're not changing.
Maybe the question is how many how many have been parking there recently, let's say last 3 months or so? How many have there?
Close trailer.
How many arrangements have been?
I'd have to go away and find it. I mean, I could find it. It's, figure out how many infringements people maybe send it through, but, we never issuing, infringements stay up. But like I said, anecdotally from officers, they have told me it's not there at the time. Since they're doing it in the last few sites.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Chris, and then John.
Just referring to you on Tiff's placement thing, I've always thought we need a couple of signs, one at locality, some kind of medical centre, telling caravans where they can go. The can park as well, like the Brownston and parking, Kingo Park, those sorts of areas, not sure big hotels, but having travelled around Europe for an extensive amount of time, and a camper, the places that were really useful had camper van parking and a sign in particular. When they're all closed, the one person that lives on there is a friend of mine, and they get people parking along there the whole length of them bottom their shop. What can people they do regularly, given that it's private parking way that we shouldn't be going to parking people do.
Where are you checking that?
When they're all closed, top of the Hidden Hills Drive.
Right, go back to that one. And it's just a bit of jumping around.
Yeah. I think we can do it.
So that's what I mentioned about the
It's a private way, a private road.
Yeah, this is, I get that closed on there, there's cars parking up there and it's not. It's a private road.
Yeah, but I think that was a specific occurrence.
Oh, this is just last week.
Yeah, but it was a specific occurrence. It was a Airbnb guest of an adjoining property that was parking across their driveway. It was in a private way. It's not no chaos and issue.
Well, I just wondering what they can't legally do, in terms of say signage or.
Usually, did you impose to contact private?
Yeah.
Enforcement tower.
Yeah, I would probably get responsible police as still being there. Might be. So they are probably fine with the names legally. Unfortunately, it's not legally. Certainly we can do, if you only enforce small council. So that I can go in the front of the driveway on on the driveway.
They would put a wall out there, they could do their own signage and
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so just to close off that conversation about whether we're all close one, this is starting with John asking about, can you actually extend the no roadway signage? And your answer was that you would go away and look at that, but now I'm hearing, no, it's a private road, so we can't.
that's a separate one.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's good.
So there's the bit which people use to access Mount Iron, which
Yes.
is either an easement, private land with an easement, or it's public land. And then there's the private way which runs off to the left and the right, which is a private road, a private
Yeah.
way. That's owned by somebody else.
Okay, so,
And there's also somewhere near just on our maps, in one of the very small sections, KLC. And if that area where it hadn't been an issue, you know, to take much like people the service committee. Instead of those committee.
We can enhance marking restrictions on the yeah. Yeah, if you included that area, I would. I was.
Is that all about this?
right, so what I'm trying to get to is whether we need a resolution to authorize the team to investigate and then maybe call on this without that. So I guess I'm looking for clarity about what that resolution would be. Sean, thanks. We'll just to
I'll just say, we request the council staff to investigate whether that no occupied of the roadway can be extended. Just to where the to be extended over a part of that reserve to prevent parking on.
We could make it
We could-
subject approval subject to extending the.
But we can only do it over, we can only do it over council control land, so we can extend it and any reserve land.
Yeah.
No parking off roadway and on Weatherall Place and any reserve lands, not with what's the name, but Hidden Hills Drive and any reserve land controlled by council, the end was like.
So it's just putting it into what we wanted to do, they put specific words into it, right? So approve changes to the noise and existing restrictions. On and off road parking restrictions, as set out. As set out, it's on page 9. As set out in attachments A and B, and including any possible extensions or wording that applied.
Yeah, council lane, so on road reserve and council lanes, that's all we need to add.
On that street.
Space activities and but including any physical extensions.
On the particular drive, Hills Drive.
Strong.
Yeah. So maybe. This your nice.
Read that back to us, like the change to new existing restrictions applied on and off road, parking restrictions, it's activities and but if there given any possible extensions on the Hills Drive or the other council land episodes.
You happy with that? Really, my next, or for the accident, that more has to talk about.
Yeah. Did you do, and do you want to limit it to that street? Because that's what I'm saying. Yeah, because Catherine's point, any other reserves, it's like, wow, that's a big, on this particular.
Adjacent to Hidden Hills, right?
Adjacent.
So I was having those right.
Thanks for limiting ourselves. Okay. Right.
Thank you. That's good. Progress. Now I know that it just feels like there are a couple more more questions.
Do we need to move that then?
Well, I've got a question or two that I'd like to gotten to, so go ahead, Tom.
So the other question I had was in much the way I hate signs. On my street, no parking, campaign parking on the north side. Should we have a bit of signage that encourages them to park on the south side so that they know that's possible? If we don't want them to park on the side, they're welcome to park on the other side. Is there any value in that? To address that issue?
I think it's, like I said, I think it's simple geometry. I mean, they park where there's a spot big enough to park their vehicle. I mean, it's never, they don't need to. And so it's.
Yeah, I appreciate the motivation. It's not an open van. When as soon as you go down to here, you back a camper van, there's something
So
Yeah, I think it's.
park where your vehicle doesn't fit doesn't really help us because if they can't work that out themselves, they're not going to read it.
It's a nice spot, but not, so yeah, thank you for listening. I think you'll understand anybody's understood. On that note too, I'm looking at water sports car park and the mobility parking space. That looks like it's going right in the good path on that map. Where do you sort of make the assumption that actually you mean adjacent to?
It's where that is a slight mapping area. It's just 5 meters.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, where that caravan is where that ramp parking space is.
Yeah.
And then the clear area is where the next area is.
Okay, just wanted to check with that. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, it's another question on the Upper Street. We've had a few people with infringements recently on various things, not just camper vans. The signage isn't adequate, and it obviously costs a lot to have the boards to deal with. Should they have been infringed and can be taken off the ticket because they didn't necessarily know. I should have been down there a lot, but how obvious is it, given that we're getting ongoing infringements? How obvious is it that you can't park a camper van there because obviously it isn't like front, it is a tourist area? Is it really, really clear as they drive up before they start turning into the spot? Because that will cause problems, right? You don't get people going in and you'll shoot backing out.
Why can't we in before we drive on because the signs usually
So I guess in that case, the question is if it's dangerous for camper vans, because I get why we're prohibiting it because of the backing. But if they don't know ahead of time and they're driving in and going, oh no, and backing out, you've still got the backing in and out problem. Unless it's clear before they get there and start turning, how will we solve the problem? Because they might as well just park and stay. You get the same number of ins and outs. Does that make sense? We're not stopping it because we want cars to park there. We want them to not pull in at all.
Yeah, I think the main issues with cars side of the disability infrastructure by the caravan itself. But the caravan itself, pulling into that space and posting out is pretty typical, no driver drive.
But in that case, we could have,
That time, very much on the agenda.
right, so that changes the rationale a little bit. Then to me, we could have a section of that area would be fine for camper vans if it was.
It's not safe to back down.
That's what you're saying. So there's two different issues here. There's the
It's
backing
not
out.
designed for big.
There is a backing out issue for cars that are parked between camper vans, and I get that their sidelines are start. It's a different issue whether it's a problem then backing out and all camper vans. So if you had a section of 10 camper van parks that were reserved just for camper vans and you couldn't have cars in between, would that be okay?
Yeah, that is the bond for, so we would actually go and bring out, like, I'm just, assuming it kind of been that would change, but I'm just assuming that the parks themselves and getting out to facilitate the design, small campers. And if that's the case, we're gonna have to spend them.
It's like, I'll just finish. It's just a comment at this point, but given that we're not having a discussion usually after the motions, I guess my thinking is that, you know, we do have to do a piece of work around how we make sure camper vans know where they can go and have got car parks that are safe, and that is obvious because just being in that whole stretch, you know, without providing an indication of where to go is a problem. I do think also that we need to think about making sure that they're not pulling in and pulling out. There needs to be something obvious that they don't go there before they start pulling out.
I think the good one is the press rifle too, but I don't have them signs on the way in, really, and then
Yeah.
to what by signs, we don't really have a way to manage that. I don't know that. Making, I will get some signs that are potentially basically there's a bit of one thing face the street. I think it's great, not excessive sign pollution. I don't know if that's
I suppose we're running a excessive sign pollution with excessive camping and pulling in, pulling out, and what are the greater risks? I think visual risks are far, you know, less of an issue than, you know, the traffic risk of having get in and out. So weigh that up, I guess.
Yeah, it sort of feels like if this is, if we approve that stretch today, it's in place, particularly for the next season. And if there's any proactive signage like we put earlier, it would be, you know, maybe I just think there's some norms that have yet to be formed around that whole area.
How do we form norms with terms?
Yeah, that is a challenge, and it's a challenge in the wrong place. Right.
One last comment, when we first did the lakefront management plan for that area, one of the things that the cameras from the community very strongly was get rid of the camper vans on the front lakefront. So that's why we had no camper van parking on the lakeside of Arnold Street, and that was the strongest.
Well, that is a good reminder of where all this came from.
Yeah. And I still go back to my other thing, we should tell them where to go coming as they come into town.
All right, we're gonna wind this up. Last few comments from John and Quentin. Did you have some?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce that was an intentional design decision. In fact, Ed Taylor was famous for saying, get rid of the wall of white camper vans, the great white wall of camper vans. But I mean, there is simply an abundance of camper van parking. There is absolutely no shortage of it. There's 100 parks across the front of Pembroke Park, 8 meters away from these spots. Like, you know, that is perfectly fine for camper vans because they're not restricted in their length. They can park on McDougall Street in the base adjacent to Pembroke Park. They can park in many of the spots on the backside of Pembroke Park. They can park in many of the spots in front of the township, in front of the Kai and stuff, where there is sufficient, you know, the dinosaur park and stuff, because there is sufficient space. It's just basic geometry, and we're not gonna. And just to go back, when we actually first built this, we did put too many signs in, and we actually had to rationalize the sign because there was just sign pollution. And 80% of the time you drive along there's a fair bit of openness and very good visibility of the signs that tell them that they can see, and it's just simple geometry. So
I wonder too if there's a takeaway for the comms team to consider, if you to work with the comms team to consider communication with Brent with hiring the camper vans. I mean, we can't control the whole country for it, although you could go through the national providers. Maybe it is an option, but particularly the ones rented in Queenstown. Seems like, I mean, again, that's more on the proactive side. How do we say where you can park as well as where you can't? It would be helpful for Queenstown as well. I mean, because
See, I think that was actually quite a good example too, because they've got a very similar situation. They've got an area where they say no camping vans, and then, you know, 200 meters up the road, they prevent them because the site's more suitable, but.
But then sometimes with freedom can be packaged about like it's in far. But I'm pretty sure there's something in the green camp space about there. It's education, so we'll definitely that too.
Yeah.
I think that used to be just.
We have parking areas and
Oh,
stuff, so they
yeah.
can make sure.
Whatever channels you've got, I just think that would be another way to address this from the other side. John,
Just quickly to address Nikki's point, you could easily solve that by just having one sign at each end of our street saying no angle parking for camper vans. That gives them a warning before they get to that section.
It's not actual balance.
Or
Perpendicular.
no perpendicular parking or parallel parking only.
That's.
It's just a suggestion.
I think there are a lot of ideas that have come as well as specific requests to your team. The last one I'm going to ask is back to Coverage Court and Allison Ave. The no parking off the roadway, and I'm feeling I know what you're going to tell me, but the wording on those signs, no parking on the roadway. So no matter where they are in this town, I've never known they're going to be. And if I can't figure it out, then there's probably a lot of, I would think I would be the only one. So are you legally required to say that, or can you actually say no parking on Birch, which is really what you mean?
Yeah.
The bylaw requires that wording.
And the terminology used, the legislation.
So I'm a plain English, simple kind of a person, and so when I see things like that, I think such a practical solution to change the wording, because then everybody would know what you mean. Well, we may, sorry. What's the process for, then do we have to change the bylaw for that to happen? I'm just asking.
Legislation.
This is national legislation.
It's a
Local bylaw.
We're taking legal advice.
You have.
Firms, Alex and Slack, just about what it is.
Yeah.
Fully guarantee that the police should be.
We're not allowed to add. You can put another sign on there that's. But we may just start talking on if that's the legal requirement. And I'm sorry, I know you might think this is going down a rabbit hole, but I just think at a really practical level, some of these things feel like they should be simple fixes. And it's just good to understand why they can't be. So that's why I'm asking you to spell it out. So the legal requirement is to use that wording when we can't add anything. In addition to that.
Potentially, you open up new policies, can't be control those off the you'd have to go in the bylaw and say, right, it's a verge and we sign that, but it's different to what the rules legislation is. Right. Karen wants to continue.
Yeah, it is. We don't need people working specifically. But we do also, from an enforcement perspective, have the option of educating people first. So that means we issue the arrangements. So there's just quite a lot of do is we issue them with fire protection, explaining it against the roadway, as we issue them an inspection, they get educated, they know the rules, and then they're not like it. So I recommend that very first, but it comes about. Okay.
Right. Well, and then this is another common suggestion then at a big picture level. So we will have been discussing and approving this today, and that's going to, as you say, maybe a once a year sort of chance to touch this stuff unless specific things come up. So when this gets communicated, wouldn't it be great if there was a common piece that explained, just acknowledge that some of the wording this can be hard to understand, and this is what that's what this means. That's what this means. And then if there's anything else that's a bit confusing, you can explain that as well. Does that sound reasonable?
We can certainly do that. Challenge will be how many people see the columns, compared to on the day you showing up
Yeah.
on signs.
Every little bit helps, and you have to tell people multiple times before they hear it. So, it's, I hear you, but I guess it's not a reason not to do it. It's possible, so we might as well keep trying. So,
Yeah, and I will something like.
well, that's right. I mean, I've been quite happy to Be quite happy to be pick this up, and we can have a little quote out in the, in the public sphere about what do our signs mean.
Yeah, it's like it goes.
It's really helpful for people to understand that we're doing this for safety, or, well, really for safety more than anything, isn't it? Because it is a mess in that area, as we've talked about, but I get why you would want cars obstructing sight lines everywhere, because even worse. Thank you very much, everyone. That was a very robust conversation, but I hope helpful for all of us, for our understanding and for you guys to take away. So I will now come to the recommendation that we are to asked to approve. So we're being asked to note this and to. I'm going to ask Georgia to read it out one more time. This is what we're being asked to approve.
So approve the changes of the new and existing parking restrictions applying to all right and off-road parking restrictions is that notation of B. Adding B, and we're adding any possible restrictions on Hidden Hills Drive and any other council land and reserves adjacent to Hidden Hills Drive. And these are going to force one side. That's the amendment.
Thank you, Nikki, for moving. Second, Chris. All of those in favor? Aye. Excellent. Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you guys so much. I have been this all waiting. Make sure we are doing our money today. Excellent. I would now like to move to the second item, which is invite Tarsi to come forward and just to talk about a new seat memorial plaque request for Rachel Stanford with 50 Morning, Tarsi. Nice to see you. Would you like to just introduce yourself and any questions you want to get?
Good morning. So for those who don't know,
we have
for everyone online who doesn't know me, for the audience, my name is Tarsi Kuchin, and then the parks officer for cemeteries and council. One of my various roles is to review and support people who are requesting memorials within the district, and so that is a purpose. So I'm happy to make the report as right, and then if there are any questions, again, questions, conversation, more. How about that?
That's a conversation.
Go for it.
Sure. It's always awesome. One thing I've done, being in furniture design, I've always been like, oh, if they're respect to why and what we can consider in terms of investigation and best message. Is that piece of work sort of in schedule at some point? If there are a review that comes up every 6 years or so, where are we sitting with thinking a bit more literally around how we can commemorate people and, offer a bit more in specification?
Yeah. So maybe to establish kind of where we're at now, we do have a few different categories of furniture types that are utilized in different areas. So for instance, if you go into one of our heritage areas like Arrowtown or Queenstown Gardens, places like that, you'll see a certain style of seat. And the idea being that that style of seat matches that aesthetic area, particularly for heritage values. The one that you'll probably see more often coming through these reports are our general bench seats. And those are the ones that we install in most other area reserves. The idea being that we've selected a style and design that has the longest longevity balanced with the amount of maintenance that seat might get in those particular locations. So there's certain areas, higher profile, more visibility, certain aesthetic values, we'll pick a certain style there. And then other areas like this particular one, since it's further out on a trail or it's by new bay, we pick a specific style that suits that sort of level of maintenance that it would be. So that's kind of where we're at now. And I suppose we do have, for instance, like the Wānaka front, where you have a specific suite of furniture that we selected that matches sort of the newly defined space. So there's those as well. Okay. So we're always open to adjusting. What we usually do is we just go through the process of anybody's keen. It's usually, to be honest, suppliers that approach us and say, hey, would you like our seat? Can you use our seat? And we just kind of assess that against the styles that we already use, where they might be suitable. Again, that's sort of aesthetic versus maintenance balance. And then if we can utilize them in those areas. So it's kind of more on a rolling basis. It really isn't sort of a set every so often and go through that review. But I mean, we're also open to them as well. So if anybody has suppliers that they usually I take that information. If it comes to me, I take that information to our parks officers who handle the contracts, particularly the maintenance. And then they go through the process of kind of reviewing the suitability of those particular styles.
I mentioned there be like space for other artwork or like musical pieces or interactive things or water fountain or like a whole bunch of different sort of more eclectic collections. But it's kind of interesting to know that like show us some fun ideas and compete and integrate without having the whole, well, it's going to be 3 years time or we look at it.
Yeah. So those who aren't familiar with the plaques, memorials, monuments, policy that we have in the district here, we did have different categories for different memorials. So usually what I want to see are the seats. That tends to be the most popular. But if anybody approaches us and they want an art piece, the art piece we want, we just don't get them very often. So this sort of approval process is very reactive. Somebody has to come to us and say, we need to do this, we want to do this, here's our proposal. For some reason, we just don't get a lot of art pieces come through being proposed, but always open to it. Definitely a flexibility. So yeah, exactly. Anytime. So yeah, anytime I'm working with Jan Maxwell, she's going through the art and public places policy and updating that as well. So since there's that bit of an overlap in that space, I'm working with her on that. So I can just kind of make sure that any opportunities that come her way, if they want memorial, we can make sure that happens as well.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah, just so can you just describe, so if someone comes and wants a memorial seat, do they pay for the seat? So they make a donation, well, effectively, is that a fixed amount that the council have already, so they know how much that is and stuff?
Yeah. So basically, there's kind of the two parts to it. If you drop it off because we could just put a black on existing seat, that's an option. And then you're just paying for the black. That's very important. Usually people do want a specific location, therefore they buy any seat. So again, depending on location, where it is and what the sign on the thing, we know the prices of the seat. And then there's a fixed amount that our maintenance contractor charges for installation. So it's very structured. So we know exactly how much that installation might adjust. Like, let's say somebody wants a seat way out on a track somewhere. We might not have to adjust that just for that sort of level of labor involved.
I agree with the principle that this is great because when it's very, and I actually knew Rue, so it's like I can imagine her family sitting there really enjoying that sport, spending time with her. So I really like the idea and in the specific circumstances. And we're in a position where we don't have more park furniture than we need, and we can, you can suck up another couple of hundred park seats around the district without too much drama. But so yeah, it's a great. I suppose there is a conflict if 50 people want to pitch in the same place. But
I'm not hearing that's happening.
no.
Yeah, I will say there's specific locations. So the Queenstown Gardens is one, actually the Wānaka-Upper front. And now that we have Mount that's become a hot spot. So there are specific areas just because of the natural profile of those locations where you tend to get more requests. And in those instances, we tend to, there's actually some sort of wording in policy already, but we tend to restrict. But yeah, we kind of narrow down because it would kind of happen where seats every, 5 years. And that's it. So we do try and balance it out.
Thank you. John, did you have a question?
No.
All right. Any other questions on this? Are we ready to consider approving? Okay. Okay, all right. I'd like to move that we approve the seat and memorial plaque installation for Rachel Stanford at the Danford Lakes and Recreation Reserve at Gundy Bay. Second.
Sure.
Tom, let's stand up first. Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Darcy. Our last item today is Chair's report, which we can take as read unless anyone would like to highlight any particularly, exciting, stimulating.
One small exciting thing that happened council meeting that belonged to the land was the Wānaka Arts and Cultural Trust asked or put a submission asking the council for some funding, and we got it. I won't go into any other detail, but there might be some members of the board maybe, and certainly members of the public who won't know that, and will spark some more interest around the performing arts and
Clarification purposes, that's you for trust national, not you that you.
correct.
To overall
Yeah,
that
that's
area.
It's like
Yeah.
paragraph in June.
Yep, thank you. Yes, that was in there. And I think the chair's report reflects the fact that there have been lots of conversations about the plan and hopefully a real example of how engagement is important and that people that voices are heard. Sometimes people's voices are heard and a decision is still made that people don't like, but to me, this whole last few months has been a clear opportunity for communities to kind of say, and linking to our council colleagues who reflected that and more whatever that decision time. The only thing I wanted to add to the chair's report is we had a share with us session yesterday where road safety and pedestrian crossings were topics of interest. And there was a compliment. That's really what I wanted to say. There was a compliment to the road reports team. So the folks who are out there in the wee hours preparing and making everyone safe for us to drive all throughout the district. This particular individual subscribed to the road reports and that. So that was nice to hear. Just wanted to note that so that it could be passed on to whoever's involved. I guess that's both the people doing the work and the people communicating.
They had a compliment before. Someone mentioned it's like, hi. It's like you've got nothing to praise, people works and I was like, oh, okay, we can put it in the, here's like it could be a cultural thing, and big ups to all the other.
Bouquets or brickbats?
Sorry.
Bouquets or brickbats?
Yeah.
That's a cultural conversation. Okie dokie. Is there anything, any other business anyone wants to raise?
Sorry, I didn't put my notes in. It's been a busy month.
It's been busy engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah. It always comes around quickly, George's request, but
Yeah.
of course.
And I did a sign, my front end sign is putting in mileage. I just.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
Okay, thanks again to everyone for, to me, to move the chair's report is accepted. I'd like to, Chris, thank you. Anyone like to second the chair's report? Thank you, Nikki. All in favor? I feel like noting that Georgia and I have had a conversation about how the meeting should have been seconded and set phone. Anyway, it's a background conversation that I continue to have with our governance team because as a movie, I get to ask the obvious questions. Yeah, try to get practical, what can I change, what can I change, always ask that question. Okay, right, we will bring our time together to a close with a karakia, just closing. Kia tau tōrangi manake ki runga I na iwi o te ao, which means that peace reign on all people of the world. Important, be safe out there on this. Very much. And we will be moving into a workshop shortly there. Yeah, well, it's Bachelor's in Himmler here. So it's supposed to be here. Yes. We're at that right now, so I can. Oh, next door. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got you guys on it, right?